And now, off to yet another dot in our schedule. It's the Fireside chat, chatting side by side in a ball of fire, but it's going to be nice, and we're again going to learn many things. Are Tom Yoritaka, Global Managing Director at CISCO Entrepreneurs in Residence, and Andy McCartney, Whitespace Ventures founding partner. Hello and welcome to the stage, gentlemen. Microphone, this one, or...
Okay, well, it's an amazing invitation. Candice, thank you. Am I going to use this? Yeah, there we go. Well, first I want to thank everyone for being here today, having us from CISCO and one of our closest partners, Andy McCartney from Whitespace Ventures. Candice, thank you so much for having us at this amazing event. Before we launch into this discussion today, let me first ask, how many of you are entrepreneurs? Okay, about 30%? Investors, angel investors or investors? Okay, 60%? Yeah, okay, great.
Yeah.
Just making sure, just making sure. Well, this is great because what I do, and we're going to talk about how CISCO works with companies and investors as well. And we're excited to be in Croatia because this is one of the regions that we're going forward. We want to really focus on, and we'll talk about why. First, I'm Tom Yoritaka. I'm the Global Managing Director of CISCO's Corporate Venturing Group, CISCO Entrepreneurs in Residence. Let me talk a little bit about that. CISCO EIR is our corporate venturing group globally. I manage this group based out of London. It was a group started in California, Silicon Valley, 3.5 years ago. Since then, we've expanded to this side of the pond. What we do is first focus on early stage companies, and that was a new thing for CISCO. CISCO had traditionally worked with, invested in, and acquired later stage companies, typically post-Series B. But there was an awareness 3.5 years ago, listen, markets are changing really fast. We saw emerging opportunities in IoT, artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, things we didn't know much about. So we said, well, let's, among other things, let's see what early stage companies were up to, and let's partner with them. Let's, in some cases, invest in them. So we started this group called CISCO EIR, focusing specifically on companies that are between angel and Series B. Relatively early for CISCO. Now, fast forward to today, 2016, we've expanded to Europe, and we brought in 33 companies, and we apply very strict technical and business due diligence. So it's not a volume business that we do. We only take in 10 to 15 companies per year. We brought in 33 companies to date. Between the two locations, and 7 of them have found successful exits. 2 have been purchased by CISCO. A couple of others have gone to Intel and SAP, our industry partners. And what we do is, once we find these early stage gems in these key strategic areas, like I said, IoT, AI, cybersecurity, blockchain, et cetera, what we do is first we engage them from a technology and commercial perspective. We don't on day one say, hey, can I invest in you? Can I buy you? We first build a relationship, and we do this under the sponsorship of CISCO's business units. These are businesses within CISCO running our various product groups, IoT, security, et cetera. We sort of kick the tires, have a dating process, so to speak, for 6 months at a time. We manage this very tightly in an accelerated way. By the end of the 6 months, we have a good sense of the strategic fit. Only after that we consider, first we consider taking the relationship to the next level. So taking it from, let's say, Croatia to the rest of Europe, or from London to California, et cetera. In addition, we selectively consider opportunities to acquire the company or to invest in some of these companies. But it's a two-step approach. It's engagement first and potentially acquisition or investment later. And we've had quite a bit of success. And we'll talk more about what we do in detail. But before we do that, let me turn this to Jonathan Costello, one of my team members based in Dublin, Ireland. He's the man leading the charge when it comes to our European initiatives. And Jonathan, you can talk a little bit about what we've done so far in London, what we hope to do in the rest of the region.
Thank you, Tom. Can you hear me with this mic? Take the handset. So thank you very much, Tom. A pleasure. Thank you, Candice, and the board of EBAN for the invitation. It's been a wonderful event so far. What we're doing fundamentally in Europe is ensuring that we have a very deep, rich network of friends across the ecosystem. So whether that be pure play technology accelerators, we have relationships with, as Tom described, industry partners, people we would describe as frenemies almost. We're working with SAP, we're working with some of the other large corporates, and there's interchange in deal flow there. But thereafter, what we're trying to do is fundamentally extend our reach beyond the corporate lens and into the investor community. And to date, we've had significant success. We are running at about, and I spoke of this yesterday, we're running at 4 deals a week. And what we're trying to do is get a deal a day, so 5 deals a week. And we fundamentally see an organization or a group like EBAN as a fantastic opportunity, one, to drive the additional deal we're looking for in the week, but also the quality of those deals and the geographic spread of those deals. We've been very successful in London, and we recently were awarded #1 in the top 25 corporate scale-up programs. What we're now looking to do is galvanize our relationship and our understanding our ecosystem in London, the greater UK, and extend that beyond with a primary focus in the short run, next 3 months or so, for Berlin and Paris, and much further and beyond. And we would love and would look to EBAN members and the constituents of the EBAN ecosystem to please raise your hand and say, hey, you know, we're really interested in blockchain. We have a whole bunch of good technology. Vice versa, we'd love to listen. We'll help, we'll share. And that's how we foresee the growth in Europe, or certainly one of the mechanisms for growth in Europe. Tom?
Thanks. Now, let me turn this to Andy, one of the closest partners in this adventure. And he's a friend of mine, he's a colleague of mine, and but he represents a different part of the ecosystem. And so Andy, do you want to talk a little bit about yourself and get into the conversation?
Yeah, cheers. So I'm a founding partner. I founded Whitespace Ventures about 1.5 years ago. It's a venture firm that's been set up by entrepreneurs. Some of the statistics around this, the partner, me and my Paul, we have like IPO'd 4 companies, exited 15, managed quite a lot of money. And we're really focused on 3 things, I suppose. One is investing into companies quickly, because I've never understood why you take a really clever tech founder and take 6 to 12 months to raise money. They should be focused on their technology, not raising money. We can invest, we have a network of high net worths, so it's not a fund. So we can go everywhere from seed to exit with that company. But what's the real key to Whitespace is that we work with tech partners, big tech partners, the likes of CISCO. We work with many others. And what this allows us to do is, instead of going and trying to hunt for unicorns, we can actually work with these partners to find real problems and get those startups that can actually come in and solve them, which works out perfect. Give them the money, give them a global partner, and the rest is a success story. So that's a bit about Whitespace Ventures. And as you can guess, I'm a tacky guy, so so love technology. So look, I'm going to jump straight into questions, and I was going to ask the first one, which is, you know, why are you engaged in Whitespace? And the real reason, by the way, is because there was meant to be a startup sitting here, and I'm sitting in their place. So, but Tom, the real reason why you're engaging with Whitespace?
Well, you know, I think the biggest reason is that we have the same philosophy. You know, we know money's important for any startup. But I think equally important is the opportunity, especially for companies in the B2B space, to scale and really drive revenue learn or acquire expertise from larger partners and gain credibility in the marketplace. It's a different story, I think, slightly in the B2C space, but I think when it comes to enterprise software, it's critical to have the right channel partners, right technology partners. And Andy understands that. Whitespace Ventures understands that. So it's a combination of money, but a whole lot of other things that are needed to make a early stage company a success story. So we hit it off from day one, sharing the same philosophy, and I'm sure many of you would agree, having invested in companies, having worked with companies, that it's not just money. It's not just money. So that's the biggest reason.
Cool. I'm going to try. Is this mic working okay? Yeah, Candy? Thanks. So, what is the unique value of Cisco's approach to the corporate startup world? Because there's a lot of corporates right now building accelerators, incubators, EIRs, labs, etc. What is your unique value? And what are the startups getting, and what is Cisco getting?
So the biggest differentiator for us when it comes to corporate venturing at this early stage is really getting the buy-in and the sponsorship of Cisco's business units. And it sounds easy, but it's actually quite difficult. If you walk into any big company, be it Cisco, Microsoft, or any other company, everyone's got a day job, really busy, right? And so being able to convince folks, executives with customers, with money, with teams, to really invest their organizations in relationship building with startups, that's difficult, and it's been our key to success. Because once you have that sponsorship from a very specific senior executive, doors open, and the right doors within your company open. And so just as a counterexample, when we didn't have this approach, early stage companies would come into Cisco, would keep meeting people, day after day, week after week, and everyone would say, hey, nice meeting you. Why don't you go ahead and meet this other group, or go to this other division? And startups would be feeling great, they're feeling positive, but months pass, quarters pass, and nothing happens. And what we've done is really to change that equation and really accelerate the strategic relationship building with the right executives, with the sponsorship of these executives. John, you want to add?
Yeah, I might add one thing. Tom is 100% right. I suppose at the operational level in Europe, I've given myself some very honest and frank KPIs. And the net of the world is, in the world we are in, is pipeline. How much money have we made? What's the net new? What happened today that wouldn't have happened if you weren't in the office or we didn't have a relationship? And to give a few data points, with one particular startup we're working with at the moment, and I'd say it's fair to say in the last 5 months, we've raised in excess of $50 million worth of pipeline. Their revenue before they met us was below 20 million. So when we say we've raised 50 million in pipeline, they're POCs. That's not the total cost of the pipeline available to this company. Once we execute on the pipeline and we see it come into kind of phase 1, phase 2 of these transactions, it's probably fair to say it's 100 million. So we're really making the difference. We're changing the trajectory of these companies. Without those, hard, stringent KPIs, I think as Tom said, in the first iteration of VIR, it became a little bit more of almost a social exercise. This is commercial. We mean what we say. We scale companies. The view we take is we do it as fast as possible as well.
So Tom, I've been in the corporate venture world. I came from Microsoft Ventures, etc. So this sounds super easy. So why isn't this practiced more by large corporates? What's the challenge? Why isn't all corporate programs just allowing startups to to engage at that level?
Yeah, no, I think it's not easy, as I said, but it's not impossible. And I think a lot of our industry peers, they're sort of waking up to this model. We didn't invent everything. I think we learned a lot from existing programs and it sort of cobbled together what worked for Cisco. But I think I see accelerators and corporate innovation programs also waking up to the fact that you have to know what your objective is. If your objective is to drive marketing around this innovation brand of your company, or to build a community, or to educate students, that's great. But if your objective is to really derive technology and commercial value through these engagements. So you have to really structure your program accordingly. So I think, you know, once you realize what your objective is, you can set up the right structure. And then the rest is just hard work of being hands-on with executives, your business units, your engineers, and always making your program at the center of your company, not an adjunct, not a science project.
Cool. And because we've got you here, Tom, you know, you're a well-traveled guy, you know. So you started out in the Valley building this program about 4 years ago, and you've now moved to London roughly about 9 months ago, and you've now aspirations of spreading it out into Europe and the rest of North America. You know, so what are you finding as some of the main differences, you know, which is really important to know for startup, because everybody wants to be like the Valley.
Right. So first of all, I'm a firm believer that you don't have to copy and paste Silicon Valley. It's almost counterproductive, I think. You know, it's in this open global world, you only need one Silicon Valley. People come to Silicon Valley. Money comes to Silicon Valley. So I think what I would hope to see is a differentiated ecosystem outside Silicon Valley, be it India, be it Europe, be it Israel. And I think in Europe, what I've found so far is that, you know, there are definitely pockets of excellence that at least rival the strength of Silicon Valley. So take IoT and manufacturing. You know, there's a tremendous strong manufacturing base in many countries across Europe, and that can play. They can, if the investors and entrepreneurs in those countries, if they can parlay that foundation into entrepreneurship and startups, they can build an incredible differentiation. So applying IoT, for example, to manufacturing. That's not to say we don't see those companies in Silicon Valley, but I think that's a real possibility for, you know, take countries like Germany, right? Cybersecurity is another one that's very prominent in markets like the UK. Again, you can find cybersecurity companies in the States, but that's a notable, I think, asset that Europe has, and I would love to see ecosystems really focus on what they do best, as opposed to just copying and pasting Silicon Valley. And of course, you said I travel a lot, I do, and I love coming to these amazing startup events. Candice, thank you again for having us today. So, I'm always open for invitations.
So that was actually an open invite there by the sounds of it. There was a reason why we dragged poor Jonathan up onto the stage. You know, we were very lucky to actually have the European lead here as well. So, Jonathan, this guy's tasking you to take on Europe. You know, yeah. So you've also spent a lot of time on the airplane, because I've been on the airplane with you. So, yeah. How are you finding all the different variations of Europe?
To pick up on what Tom had said about the Valley and the comparison between the Valley and what it is we're doing, I feel personally, and this is a personally held view, that the Valley is over, there's a shadow cast over the Valley by money, and it's very money orientated. How quickly can you raise, and can you do a mega raise? And can you raise, 200 million, 300 million? You get these huge, huge rounds. And reflecting on what Brian said this morning, Brian Dickinson, I know Andy's a hero of yours. I was here for Brian's keynote, and he said two things: relationship and never give in. And I find that the relationship in the ecosystem and the attitude of the ecosystem, and I can fundamentally reflect on the London ecosystem, is incredibly robust. Really believe in sharing, acknowledging each other's success, in intimate, I suppose, work together, believe we can do this together attitude, and not giving in, and resilience. I think it's recently, and I think Tom and I and Andy have witnessed this, they've obviously had their challenges with BritX, but they've just doubled down. And the quality of the technology and the quality of entrepreneurs that's coming out of that community is fantastic. Similarly, I still think that the remainder of Europe has escaped the burden of the Valley big raise. The big VC coming in, and it really comes down to how much money can you raise and how quickly can you do it. And I think Europe has, for whatever reason, and I don't understand the anthropology of this or the social dynamic of it, but has managed to avoid that. And for as long as Europe avoids that and is relationship orientated and unique and believes in itself, I think you're going to see a higher quality, or certainly high quality, what I refer to as deal flow or startups. And it's that's ultimately the difference I see in the value I see.
Cheers. Well, I've got 2 more questions, so you'd be good to know. But these are the juicy ones that we're here for. Tom, at a global level, and I'm going to ask the same Jonathan, a European approach on it, is, what advice, you asked to start, would you give entrepreneurs right now that want to have that magical story with CISCO, they want to get exited, they want to have a huge contract, what advice would you give the entrepreneurs in the room at a CISCO lens?
Certainly, definitely come talk to us. We're open for business. We have a structure to work with early stage companies. So if you think your technology fits with Cisco's strategy, just email me. Come talk to us. So that's number one. Number two, in general, is I would love to see all early stage companies really focus on productizing your IP, your software IP. And it's easy to say, it's very difficult to do, especially in markets where funding isn't that easy to come by. You have to pay your bills. So you end up sort of doing consulting, you have to end up becoming a service company, and you delay productization. And many end up just being consulting companies for the rest of their existence. And now that's easy. How do you change that? One way to change that, other than traveling to California or New York to raise money, is to leverage partnerships with large corporates. Again, we can you can find revenue much more quickly if you approach companies like Cisco or Microsoft or any of these companies, and that'll give you the fuel and an opportunity to really productize your IP and become a true software company. And I would love to see more of that in Europe.
So Jonathan, because we've got about 5 minutes left. So, you're all about the stories, but tell us, because you're tasked right now to go and find those rock stars in Europe, and that could be anywhere in Europe. So what advice would you give the entrepreneurs? Because somebody in this room could be the next.
Fantastic, and you said it earlier on this week, and last night or yesterday morning, myself and you had a workshop, and we focused on storytelling, and I was here this afternoon, and I'll give the lady a shout out because she was an absolute fantastic ambassador for all startups. There's a lady here who has an animation company. She's from Granada in Spain, and I walked by her kiosk and I saw it, and I stopped, and she opened up, she showed me a picture, and she made 4 statements. This is a Pixar movie, this is the movie I made, Pixar made it for 200 million, I made an identical movie for 60 million, done, interested. Because I'm a technologist and we're in the technology domain, what tends to happen is people throw their code at me. They open up their Python libraries. Have a look at my Python library, it's awesome. Yeah, it is relatively awesome, but what's really awesome is the impact you're going to have on my customers, the impact you're going to have on our revenue. How quickly can we monetize? Will we innovate on behalf of my clients with a minimal amount of disruption? They're the things I want to hear. So for me, Andy, what separates good from bad is communication. And when you're speaking with a large corporate, where do you coalesce with us and what's the value? Get that across in 2 or 3 seconds. Job done. You'll stand out.
Well, let me turn this to you, Andy. You've had it easy today. You've been asking all the questions. So now we have a lot of angel investors in the audience. And you've been an entrepreneur. You run a VC. You work with corporates. You're a leading figure in the UK and the European ecosystem. What is your advice to angel investors, either in this room or just in Europe in general?
Oh wow, yeah. I think it's amazing to be an angel. You get the chance to get that company right at the start. You get to nurture them. That's a rare privilege. So one of the things I would say to angel investors is, one is be prepared to invest a couple of times into that company. They're never going to get it right first time. There's going to be a couple of pivots, and that's just the nature of it. So when you're investing into a company, make sure you're investing into the team and not just the technology. That's a big one. Also, remember there's a lot of journey to happen for these companies. Whenever they go into big due diligence with the likes of Cisco's or Microsoft's or Google's or whoever, there's a lot of other people that want to put money behind these founders. And it's really important that their start of their journey is structured to make them move as fast as possible. And also, probably the last one, which is more my entrepreneurial side. I did spend 20 years building companies as a geek, so I never would have been on a stage 20 years ago. I didn't even want to speak to people. I just want to work with computers. Is that they're just terrible at building decks. They're awful. You know, very clever companies don't know how to use PowerPoint. They don't know how to use spreadsheets. They certainly don't know how to do a 3 years projection. But remember, you're investing at a very early stage. You know, the due diligence, the severe due diligence comes later on. So thanks for that, Tom, for putting me on. But so I'm going to put it back right at you then. So, you know, what advice would you give angel investors, not around the startup, but at the end of the day, how do they get involved with being part of a £400 million exit with CISCO or a $100 million deal? You know, how does that happen for an angel?
Well, I think I'm going to sound like a broken jukebox, but
so you're stealing my answers, is what you're saying?
No. Well, so I think we're open for business vis-a-vis angel investors, early stage investors as well. And the way we work together is, sometimes we could co-invest, but more importantly, if you have companies in your portfolios that could benefit from commercial technology and strategic partnerships with CISCO, come talk to us. We don't have to necessarily spend investment dollars. Like I said, our approach first is really relationships and engagement and commercial outcomes. So you can use us to, and it's not just Cisco, Microsoft, Google, et cetera, as a way to scale. And I'm speaking more from the B2B perspective. Look at us from the scaling perspective. So that's the first thought that comes to mind.
One thing I would like to say, and maybe just a clarification point, is we do all this without having asked for equity. I think that's very important. We're not fully pro bono. It's not out of the love for you or for others. We will get there, but it's relationship orientated, and we'll get there at the end when we bake you into one of our solutions, and/or we've a license agreement with you, and/or you're on our price list, and then there's opportunity for alternative commercial outcomes. What I would say is, and again, I sound like a broken jukebox, is for angels, and Andy had spoken to it. Not everybody is predisposed to being particularly good at communicating, particularly good at getting their financials in order. And the very best thing you can do as an angel is enable somebody to be able to present what it is they do succinctly on a one-pager and understand that the elevator pitch. Boom, this is what I do, ABC. This is why I do it, ABC, and this is the value, ABC. If that person leaves the room and they're doing that on an ongoing basis with your money behind them, you should be confident.
So Tom, we're about to get the hook and be pulled off stage here. So I'm going to ask one question, 30 seconds, why are you in Croatia? Why CISCO here?
Well,
it's not for the Christmas market, by the way. So
the Christmas market is amazing, so that's one of the reasons. But Candice, thank you again for having us today. It's been for amazing conferences like this. So that's number 2. And we saw I flew in yesterday. I check in and I see CISCO access points all over the hotel. So clearly there's love for CISCO in town. So all joking aside, Croatia and then this region. One of the questions I wanted to sort of share with you was where do we see emerging ecosystems? Apart from the obvious ones like London, Berlin, Zurich, and all the rest. Where do we see emerging ecosystems in Europe? And Croatia or this part of Eastern Europe is ripe for nomination. So I think it's personally I'm excited to be here, and would love to get to know as many of you as possible, and would love to see more companies emerging from this area.
I think that's the
real quick. I'm going to be candid. It's deal flow. That's why I'm here.
Deal flow. Yeah, Jonathan's here to get his KPIs and bonus.
Thank you.
Thanks. That's us.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
So, if I may, I get an email. I got an email last night, or this morning, I'm not sure, from Andy. Candice, I would love to have an autograph from Bruce Dickinson.
Yeah. On the way.
Thank you, CISCO. Thank you, dear friends. You'll get something else tonight. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.